Yeah, of course. That's self-explanation. Don't pretend to have a problem which is not your problem. Yeah.
Correct.
Of course. Yeah, number 9, the most important one. Do not harm little children.
Don't. Correct.
Where is it? It means, yeah, it means harm. And harm means everything, right?
Yeah.
From beating to
abuse, emotional, physical, spiritual, everything.
Yeah. We cannot find it on the right side, right? There is no mentioning of this at all.
Correct.
Or could you like interpret it in one of?
Hey, hello. What a day this has been. December 12, 2021. Or to put it another way, 12 December 2021. Notice the title of this segment? 03. 03. Well, 01, it was supposed to be an 01 thing, or a 00 thing, or a null space thing. Nothing. It's supposed to be no number on there. So the first segment, I was zooming right along, and I lost connection with something. I can't remember now what it was. Oh, I do remember what it was. The first time the show came to an abrupt end was when the cat was chasing the dog. Hey, Square Circle. The cat was chasing the dog, or the dog was chasing the cat. I don't know. I don't even have a cat. But the cat from across the hall was visiting. So they knocked the plug out of the socket of the wall. So I just lost, I lost the router right away. Bang, lost the router. So I rebooted the router and waited forever until everything came back together. And then I started round 2. And if you notice, this is 3. So you'll also appreciate that round 2 came to an abrupt end. And that was when the whole building that I live in just bang, lost power. Gone. Nothing. Dark. So what I did was I took advantage of the zero power, nothing to do here at home, and I took my dog out for quite a walk. By the time we got back from our walk, the power was still out. Nothing to do, out. So the best thing to do when you got no power and you have taken your dog for a walk, and all you've got is your phone, which can't even charge, but you've got some podcasts downloaded onto it. So I had a nap, listened to some podcast. Well, I listened to some podcast, had a nap, and then I woke up, and we took my dog for a walk again, and now I'm back for part 3. I will like to summarize part 2 and how it came to, and well, there's a character who calls himself Rebuke and Reprove on the internet, and I had an open room, just like I have now, an open room where anyone can come in and start having a chat. So Rebuke and Reprove, he came in to have a chat because I do have a challenge there. Sidney Winston says the Christian God is not a brute fact. Prove me wrong. So he came in and he says, "What do you mean Christian God is not a brute fact?" Ah ha ha ha. Just, he had this mocking tone. But anyway, he's been in before and he has been respectful. But this time he came in and he was like 2 guns blazing. He was not respectful at all, actually. Now, when somebody it comes at me, I obviously lose my calm demeanor, which I shouldn't. It is a flaw. It is a personality flaw that I have. But what I should do when somebody like that comes in and he won't shut his mouth, I proved you wrong. I proved you wrong. You debunked yourself. You contradicted yourself. Blah, 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 blah. I just should let him run his mouth until he's run out of steam. But it didn't go so well. I got a little angry that he wouldn't let me speak. I mean, I didn't get half a sentence out. I didn't get a paragraph out. I didn't get a thought out before he was blah, 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 like we weren't having a nice, flowing, respectful conversation like I really kind of demand in these rooms. It's the only way that hangouts type rooms will work, is when there's a bit of respect between everybody. And this guy, rebuke and reprove, there was no respect there. So I thought I don't really have a plan for completing this third segment. I thought I'd had something. No, I really don't have a plan. But I would like to do a reaction to, let me have a look at the title first. Oh, the Trinitarian God. Yes. The great impossible Trinitarian God. That is what I want to address next. And of course, I'm not prepared for it right now. So what I'll do is I will go and prepare for this momentous moment. Just kidding, not a momentous moment. It's just going to be a moment of we're going to be questioning the Trinity again and again and again and again. So without a further delay, learn the green and forget the red. All right? You learn the green and forget the red.
Price. Antoine Belton asks, "Hi, my name is Antoine. I've been a follower of your podcast for quite some time. Your videos are very informative, especially those involving Dr. Price. I think the work you two are doing is invaluable. I believe that you and Dr. Price have a live stream session maybe a week or so ago that I missed. I wanted to ask a question related to the Trinitarian doctrine, which may be a good topic for discussion in future videos. My question is, how much influence did Neoplatonism have on this belief? I remember Philo of Alexandria being closely associated with Trinitarian theology along with Tertullian. I assumed they were the originators of this thinking. I've done a little research on Neoplatonism, and it seems to center around this concept of the one. Seems like it could be interchangeable with the name Jesus. Plotinus looks to be a central figure around this thinking, along with many other philosophers. Appears that the Platonic tradition had an effect on Christianity, but I'm interested to see what you and Dr. Price have to say about it. Again, keep up and great work. I look forward to your response. Thanks."
Well, I think Philo did kind of map out the essence and the direction that would ultimately end up in Trinitarianism, because he believed that there was the God, which was sort of an abstraction, and he was a Middle Platonist, and he liked to allegorize the Bible to make it pretty much Platonic and Stoic, and he took the liberty to do this because he thought that Moses was the source from which Plato drew, and which was apparently common among some of the Christians and Jews back then, though historically it's absurd, but they didn't know that, they couldn't know that. But at any rate, it was an abstract view of God. And how did God create? Well, there's a coincidence between Genesis, which has God saying, "Let there be light, let there be this." And in other words, there were words or commands, debar, debarim in Hebrew, same thing, word or command. And so that fit with the notion of the logos, the word from ultimately from Heraclitus, a pre-Socratic. This notion was that of proportionality in the universe. What keeps things running on an even keel? Like, why do the seasons follow one another in the same order? When autumn comes, why do all the leaves not fall at the same time, but it's stretched out? Why does all the water in the world never freeze simultaneously? And why doesn't the world completely burn up sometime? Well, it can't, because there's this kind of regulating principle, the logos. The Stoics borrowed this, and they said, well, the logos is the essence of the god Zeus, whom they had abstracted. And of course, some Hellenistic Jews thought that Zeus and Yahweh were the same thing anyway. Some Jews now. The Epistle of Aristeas says that. Let's see. So Philo says, okay, God created by the Logos, which was pretty much the same as Sophia, or Chokhmah in Hebrew, the word, the wisdom of God that was with him in creation. And
so, sorry for interrupting you, Dr. Price, but it looks to me like I won't be really needing to disprove the Trinitarian, the triune God, or to show how ridiculously illogical it is, because I think Dr. Price here with Derek from Myth Vision is going to do a way better job than I could ever do. But I will keep on trying. If not this time, then next time. But this is interesting. Oh, before we carry on, the room is open. I probably would suggest you wait until the the end of this interview. If it's interesting. If not, just jump on in and we'll just get right to the conversation. This is going to be another approximately 25 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. So at least we have that much leeway for you to, we have 20 minutes for you and everybody out there to gather up some courage to come into Sidney Winston's hangout room. But please be respectful. If you have watched the way Rebuke and Reproved comported himself in my room in, I can't remember if it was challenge 2 or challenge 1. I don't know. Can't remember. But anyway, you can scrub through it. We were on the screen, so you can't miss it. But he was, again, like I say, he was very disrespectful, and I unfortunately reacted out of emotion, I think, until I asked him to leave. And he, you know how he left? He left, like one of those guys who's just sort of done something to you. Like, I don't know, hurt you by pulling the chair out from under you, right? You fall on the floor and hurt yourself, and then walks away laughing. That's the kind of feeling I got when Rebuke and Reprove left the room. So here you go. Dr. Price, I'm sorry for the interruption. Please take it away.
It seems to have been thought of as an instrument of creation. You find that in the Wisdom of Solomon, in Proverbs chapter 8, I think it is, and in Sirach and so forth. So what was, and then actually there were multiple instantiations of the Logos, or the Word. One sort of emanated the other, and that's kind of like Neoplatonism. But I want to get back to that in a moment. And so what was this word, even if you just simplify it to one, and not the whole chain of them? Was it God, or was it something else? Like, this is already the question in the debate between Arius and Athanasius, which also had to do with the divine Logos, through which everything was created. Was that of the same nature as God, or was it like God? In Greek, homoousios, of the same nature, or homoiousios, of like nature. So what was the answer Philo gave? Well, he didn't. He, as I understand him, he retreated into a kind of ambiguity that, and partly because he must not have wanted to deny monotheism. But the problem is, well, are you saying God did it? Which seems a little embarrassing almost, this transcendental deity. I mean, it's hard to get from that to Genesis, where Genesis 2, where God is making a guy like a sculpture out of clay, literally getting his hands dirty, having hands. And so, okay, God didn't exactly do it. Or who revealed the law on Mount Sinai? Whose finger was it on the place? Well, God? Could God descend to that? Or was it an angel of God? Because even in Exodus, it speaks of it as an angel in the burning bush. So you don't want to say it's somebody other than God, but you don't want to make God a creature among creatures. As if he were the king of the gods or something. So he introduces a note of ambiguity that I think is central to the later Trinity. Are the three one? Well, in a sense they are, but they're not simply the same thing. As some would argue, well, it's just one God showing himself in a different likeness or acting in a different mode. And now that's not good enough, because the threeness has to be integral to God. Otherwise, you're kind of making the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit into illusory manifestations, like in Hinduism. There's one divine being, Brahman, but he appears to worshippers in different faces, Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna, and so on. They're all God, but they're all like faces of God or masks of God, like Joseph Campbell used to say. Okay, I want to return to who formulated the Trinity in a moment. Well, this isn't a bad time to do that, I guess. Tertullian was the first to speak of three personae in the Godhead, but we don't exactly know for sure what he meant. The current usage of persona, literally it was these masks that actors wore, like the smiling and the frowning when comedy and tragedy. Well, often the actors would hold up these masks. They just hold them. They wouldn't even wear them exactly, and that would tell you who they were supposed to be. So that was the persona, the image. So that doesn't settle the big question, the ontological question, but it kind of implies modalism. 3 modes, 3 roles, 3 faces. We don't know exactly what he meant, but that was a big stepping stone.
We don't know exactly what he meant, and this is the central tenet of Christianity. You know what I was thinking when it comes to the law of logic with this triune, this Trinity thing? Let me just, sorry, Dr. Price, but I just want to make a point here. If this is the, oh, that's not very well centered, is it? Sorry. Okay, so if this is the diagram of the triune God, the only way it can make sense is if, when God is the Spirit, God is not the Son, and God is not the Father. When God is the Son, God is not the Father, and God is not the Spirit. When God is the Father, God is not the Son, and not the Spirit. That's the only way we can get some rational thinking, some logic out of this diagram, but changing it a little bit. And what I was thinking here is, so God is the Son. Yeah, okay, that makes sense if this Jesus Christ mythology was a real story. Okay, so God is the Son. At the time that the Son was on the earth, the Father and the Spirit were dormant or non-existent. Let's say that you can. God is God, but God, the Son, is the same as God. God the Father, same as God. God the Spirit, the same as God. But they can't be. They can only have one identity at any one time. So if God is the Father, there is no God the Son, there is no God the Spirit. If God is the Son, you know what I mean. So that's the only way I can make sense out of this. But I am very sorry for interrupting you, Dr. Price. Please continue.
100 years or so later, 150 maybe, I forget, you have the 3 Cappadocian fathers. Cappadocia's in Asia Minor. This was Gregory of Nyssa, Gregory of Nazianzus, and Basil of Caesarea. They were old classmates and friends and kept in touch. They were major theologians, and they argued that there are 3 persons in the Godhead, and yet there's only one God, but the threeness is integral to the divine being. Irenaeus also had what was called economic Trinitarianism, which is modalism again, really. God acts in different ways. So what do you do with the 3? What are they? Are there, because on the one hand, the danger is tritheism. There are 3 gods, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And, well, they share one divine nature. Well, how real is that? In what sense is that real? I mean, I can say Larry, Moe, and Curly share the essence of stoogeness, but they're 3 different guys. It just means that they belong in the same category. It doesn't imply, and it's like a kind of formal unity, but not a material one. So you don't want to say that there are 3 gods. But what's the alternative? Is it modalism again? And people unwittingly commit heresy, quote unquote, when they try to explain the Trinity as like water, ice, and steam. You see, it's the same stuff chemically, but it can exist in three modes. That's heresy. That's modalism. And it's, oh no, it's like three light bulbs. They're all the source of the light that they share. Nah, that's tritheism. So what is the analogy then? There isn't any, because it's not a real concept. As the church fathers admitted, it's a mystery. And now this is not an absurd notion, but it's not exactly a notion at all. They're saying that these theories, like these models, if you will, tritheism and modalism, are inadequate attempts to grasp something so beyond human ken that you're oversimplifying it. You're essentially reducing it to an idol of a kind. And now I can see that if you said that, well, we're talking about the absolute infinite spirit. As in Isaiah, my ways are as above your ways as the heavens are above the earth. Yeah, I can see that. If that's the case, it's not a surprise we couldn't conceive it. Like, we don't even know what quasars are.
But isn't that a cop-out?
Well, I think it is. It's just, if you had good reason to believe such a thing, you could say, you could acquiesce and say, yeah, as the psalmist says, these things are too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. I understand. I mean, any worthy God, you would have to say that, or your mind is greater than God. So I understand it. It's not necessarily a cop-out, but it seems to me it ultimately is. And that what they've done, again, is to retreat into ambiguity. It can't really be modalism, but it can't be tritheism, so what is it? Well, we don't know. Now, to me, that is fatal, because even though, right, in one way, it's not absurd, in practice, what happens? If you pray to the Father and the Son and then to the Spirit, how is that not tritheism? I mean, I think you've got to have something in mind if you say, I believe in the Trinity, or are you just speaking in tongues? Do you have anything in mind? You would think so. If I say I believe 1492 Columbus crossed the ocean blue, I know what I have in mind there. Or if I think so-and-so political party will ruin the country if they're elected, I know what I mean. I could be wrong, but it's a conceivable sort of a thing. But here, what are you talking about? What is it you believe? It's like, I believe in what's that again? You can't hold it in your head, so there's nothing to believe here.
You know, that reminds me, do you remember that movie Army of Darkness?
I've never seen it.
Oh, you've got to watch it. There's a part where he gets somehow launched back because he opens up the Necronomicon he shouldn't have had, and it launches him back into medieval times, and now he has a shotgun too when he ends up back then, and he has fight these demons. There's real monsters in this movie, and there's corpses coming in the night, and the living dead's coming to life and all that. Well, in this war, he's going to try and stop it all, and he has 3 words he has to remember: Neptu, Naraka, and then he has the 3rd word, and he goes up to enchant. All he has to do is remember these 3 words. The sorcerer or whoever, the wizard's like, do not forget the words. And he's like, okay. He gets there finally to the place, and this is it. The book is opened, and he's like, Neptu, Naraka. And then the ground starts to shake, and he's like, I said it. Good. And then the demons start coming, and he's like, I said your stupid words. Sorry, I had to put that
throat clearing. That's kind of what I think it is. You're obfuscating. And so it could be a great profundity, but it could just be a bad theory. And in the absence of any good reason to believe this. I mean, we know there are quasars. We don't know enough to say what they are, but we don't know that there's a Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And when you start looking at plausible explanations for where they came from, it seems to me, like Nietzsche says, that that if you can trace the evolution of something, you can no longer take it for granted that it simply exists. And I think that's the case. You can easily see how Jesus, the Son, is supposed to be different from the Father, but people wanted to worship Jesus, but they also wanted to be considered monotheists, so they had to somehow patch them together. And then the Holy Spirit. I have a PhD in systematic theology. I cannot understand where this comes from or what it's supposed to mean. Because in the vast majority of instances in either testament, the Spirit is an it. It's like the medium for the exercise of divine power. And
Tide and Rover, welcome to the chat. All right, let me just see if I can understand this here. You say, Sidney, you are not making sense. Trinitarianism is a totally incoherent concept. Well, I agree with you. That's my point. I mean, look at what did I title this thing that makes you think that okay. The discussion that we are going to be having, if somebody joins in by the time this clip ends, is a Trinitarian God? Impossible. Okay, so that's the title. How do you figure that I am supporting Trinitarianism? Okay, never heard two theists agree entirely on the definition of the Trinity. Well, number one, I'm an atheist. Dr. Robert Price is an atheist. Derek Lambert, who he's talking to, is an atheist. So there are no theists in this mix. If you are an atheist, then that makes all four of us atheists. But do, come on in. Join the chat and let's hear what you have to say. Let's have a conversation. Nice, respectful, not like rebuke and reprove yesterday.
There's one or two places where metaphorically it's ascribed personality, like don't grieve the Spirit of God, but that's a little tenuous to say, oh, yeah, see, the personality of the Holy Spirit. It just seems that somehow somebody thought this was a loose end that had to be tied up. But what or who is the Holy Spirit? And it just seems to me that's so artificial. It's just obviously spurious. And so it seems to me there's no reason to believe this. Now, the Hindu triad, if you want to call it, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, that...
Okay, this is something I have no idea about Hindu anything. So there's a triad in Hinduism, Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. I did not know this. I am being educated in some kind of different Eastern theology. Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma are the three gods of Hinduism, of the Hindus, okay? So I'm trying to follow along.
That was an ecumenical compromise because the two great gods in Hinduism still today are Vishnu and Shiva, who have no real connection. They're different pantheons, and each regards their patron deity as the ultimate. And then Brahma, the creator, was apparently dominant in an earlier time, and for some reason they put him in there. And they rigged it up so that it's Brahma, the creator, Vishnu, the preserver, and Shiva, the destroyer. This isn't a trinity, because though there are three of them, it's backed up by non-dualism.
Okay, here is the villain himself, rebuke and reprove. He's in the chat. Do not have any mercy on him. Maul him to pieces ideologically. Carry on.
The idea is that Brahman, spelled slightly differently, is the featureless divine essence with no definition or differentiation. It's sometimes called Satchitananda, being, consciousness, bliss, and those are just, as Job says, the edges of his ways. We even that is a matter of the refraction of the pure light of Brahman through the limiting conditions, as they call it, like light being broken up into the colors of the rainbow because of the rain droplets that act as prisms. That's kind of why it seems to us that there are different people, different things, etc., or different gods. Ultimately, it's all Brahman, but we can't see it till we're enlightened. So this triad, the Trimurti doctrine, the three images, is like modalism, basically. It's not Trinitarianism. So what have we got here? They do solve the problem this way. Okay, we're coming down to the modalistic side. On a popular level, they're simply polytheists. They believe in hundreds of deities, though more philosophical ones would say, no, these are also relatively illusory manifestations, almost like the different virgin apparitions in Catholicism. Now, with Neoplatonism, this seems to me to be more like Hindu non-dualism. It says ultimately there is the one, and it seems to mean pretty much the same thing as far as I can tell as Brahman. And on a lower level, it's kind of like a fountain of being, and from the one emanates the two. You now, if you could perceive it, you could see like Jung spoke about this. He said that only on the second level, where one has given rise to two, can you have dualities like good and evil, light and shadow, and so on. But then they, as more of them emanate, you have a whole world of illusory diversity. I mean, it's good enough for us. We're on that level. But that's what it is. That any difference is not ultimately real. And Plotinus had a couple of important disciples. One was Origen of Alexandria, the great church father, not Saint Origen, by the way, because later they considered him a heretic. And Valentinus, the greatest of the Gnostics. And Plotinus didn't believe in Gnosticism because he couldn't accept the notion that matter was evil, as the Gnostics thought. But there's obviously a huge relation between Neoplatonism and Gnosticism. Let's see. So Neoplatonism doesn't really get you out of the bind Trinitarianism puts you in, because you're still kind of dealing with modalism as far as I understand it. And it's just that the one differentiates into two, not three, I guess, but on a lower level of being. And we're way down there. Again, that's not bad in Neoplatonism. It is in Gnosticism, the value judgment. But it seems to me that Philo, a middle Platonist, that
Thank you, Tide and Rover. I appreciate it.
is with Plato and his school being the original thing, and then middle Platonism with Philo and others, which combined some Aristotle and Stoicism, and then Neoplatonism a bit later with Plotinus. So they're all playing ball in the same park, but I don't think it's Trinitarianism is a direct outworking of Neoplatonism. But they're all relevant to that question, and it's one of the most important theological questions.
Interesting. makes me think of, like we've talked about how doctrines, if you're going to accept multiple groups and you're going to create doctrines to kind of nail, or we're going to put a final seal on the whole totality of what we have, I guess if something was contradictory, yet you're trying to seal the deal by bringing in, well, you like that, we like this, let's make it all work, then technically you could take something that logically won't make sense or is a technical contradiction, unless you want to say it's a mystery, and then explain why your contradiction's there. That could be why they had come up with a doctrine like that, kind of like preterists do today. Why do people still believe that Jesus hasn't come? The final end hasn't happened. Well, he said he was coming in the first century. He said it over and 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 over. It was supposed to end. Everything was supposed to happen. Why did the church still go? Why are they still waiting? Well, because a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. Oh, okay, so you can find places that teach what you like, and then you can find places that teach what you don't like, but you got to make those formulate to what you like. Vice versa. Well, preterists do it in the opposite direction. However, if you have both, what do? Well, he came in a shadow form in the first century, but the real end is not yet. It hasn't quite happened. So there's an explanation. I wonder if the same thing with the doctrines here are, you have some that believe he was just a man or something like that, some who believe he was demigod-like, some who say he was the Father himself, or right there, one with God himself. And so you had to find a way to somehow split it up. I don't know if the Trinity answers that, but...
Well, in a way, it is. You're trying to get together monotheists and Jesus worshippers by saying, well, they're kind of the same thing, but only kind of. The diversity of beliefs, by the way, there's a real great modern analogy with a Pentecostal faith healer from the 1950s, William Marion Branham, who created quite a stir at the time. He was hinting pretty broadly that he was the precursor for the second coming. He had arguments like, well, I don't know where he got this, but this new herald of the second coming, whoever he was, would have a name similar to Abraham, and his name is Branham, and so forth. And hey, his name. Well, so that's apparently what he thought he was, a pretty exalted position. And he did think it would be any time. But others of his disciples thought that wasn't good enough and said, I think Branham is the second coming of Christ. And others said, no, he is a new incarnation of God in his own right. Well, I don't think Branham hinted at the latter, too, but they just couldn't control themselves. And or Rabbi Schneerson, the Rebbe of the Lubavitcher sect of Hasidim, once he died, you had various of his followers say that he's God incarnate, and that he's, or others said, oh, just the Messiah. This, you almost have to. In fact, that's a great modern parallel that Bultmann didn't live long enough to see, because he figured Jesus had predicted the coming of the Son of Man and had no thought of it being him. But when he died and people had visions of him, they said, I get it. Jesus is or has now become the Son of Man. And when the Son of Man comes, it'll be him. Well, that's just what happened with Rabbi Schneerson. He said the Messiah's on his way, and his disciples began saying, I bet it's him.
What about, is that after his death they were saying that?
No, even they thought before he died
that
he's going to reveal himself. He never did. But after he died, they began to say, yeah, he is, and he's coming back. So similar.
Join our Patreon.
Join the Patreon. was waiting for that. I like it when he says that we are myth vision. Good going there, Derek. Okay, having let's see. Well, we don't have anything else to watch. So at this point, the room is a bit. Okay, so anybody can join. I would maybe let me try and make it a little bit more inviting. How would that be? Make it more inviting. So give me one moment. I could try and do that anyway. You know what I mean? If I take that out, hold on, I'm designing a whole new scene here. It is quite energy depleting. Actually, it isn't. But there we go. Okay, so this is this new. There we go. Let me slide that. Okay, room is open. In you come. I should maybe set it up a little differently. How about this one, like that? Oh yeah. That would work. Okay. Boom. There we go. So yeah, come on in and bring your thoughts. My thoughts are, or my challenges are. Let's see. I probably got them like. Okay, here's the first challenge. We should have put up here. Okay, there's the first challenge. All gods are imaginary. Prove me wrong. Bet you can't. Bet you can't. And I have a second challenge. And I pretty much have to find it. All right, so there's the second one. All gods are imaginary. Prove me wrong. The Christian God is not a brute fact. Prove me wrong. So there you go. There's my challenge. Yes. And if you don't want to prove me wrong, that's fine. All you got to do is come on in and forget about proving me wrong and talk about something else. I did something earlier which garnered a little bit of attention or reaction, I should say, from the chat. I think, if I remember correctly, and that was reading some news, Canadian news from the CBC. You know. Real news. And I remember, oh yes, it was the Roman Catholic Church rape incident. Well, the Roman Catholic Church rape incident. One of the many, probably thousands of Roman Catholic Church clergy impregnating lots of women all over the world. Bastards. Roman Catholicism is disgusting. It is evil. Roman Catholicism is dirty, plain dirty. That's that. There's no worse. I mean, there are, but you know, simply Roman Catholicism is dirty. You can prove me wrong on that one too, if you like. Come on in. Maybe I should add it as a separate challenge. Nah, I'll just say it. Maybe I'll put it up in as a title for the next challenge. So Roman Catholicism is dirty. So there's seven of you watching. I know you can't hide these things from me. So 6 of you watching. I know. You can't hide these things from me. So why don't one of you come on in and tell me about a part of your life. Well, I tell you what, if you like, you could come in and I'll interview you. How's that? I would like to brush up my interview skills, and I would like someone who's prepared to be interviewed to come in. If I know you, then the interview will be easy. Well, not easy, but I'll sort of have an idea of what kind of questions to ask. If I don't know you, then if you would provide a little bit of an introduction, just a couple of sentences, something for me to start off with. So if you'd like to help me, Sidney Winston, with my interview skills, then I would like to interview you and see how that turns out. In fact, interviews could be just a whole separate idea of a stream. Live stream interviews, of course. Because it's turning out that these long shows, hours and hours long, I haven't done it yet, but they are going to need to be chopped up into segments and presented accordingly for there to be any viewing traction, if there's such a term. But currently, I challenge the Christians. You know how they like to talk about their brute facts. Is it a brute fact? Oh, it's a brute fact. Well, here you go. The Christian God is not a brute fact. Prove me wrong, because there's absolutely nothing that is dependent upon the Christian God. Because the Christian God does not exist other than in your imagination. In my imagination too. If I were to think about a Christian God, imaginary, it would have to be in my imagination. So when we talk about the Christian God, we're pretty much talking about my imagination versus your imagination. Simple. And I always say that my imagination is open. The Christian God I know is mythology. I treat it as mythology, and there you go, end of story. It's a mythology. Or as they say in French, mythology. No? Oh, okay. So we're holding steady at 6. Somebody must be waiting for something to happen. I know one of you is itching to join. You know how to join? I have not been my usual hospitable self, have I? Because I did not put the link in the side chat for those 6 of you who were he or she given a chance to push a link that would send you directly to this Google chat room. Those days are now over. I have put the link and pinned it to the top of the live chat. 6 of you have no excuse. I have space for 6 people. If that 7th person hadn't left, I still would have had space for 7 people. In fact, I don't think I have too much of a limit, like 100 people maybe. No limit. Shako, come on in and tell me about this Christmas cake. I'd like to send you a Christmas cake. Shako. Come on in. Tell me about why you'd like to send me a Christmas cake. And what is a Christmas cake? Why is a Christmas cake necessary? And do Christmas cakes actually really exist other than in your imagination? So let's hear it. But the only way you can do that is to pop into this chat room. Otherwise, I'll have no recourse other than to shut down the chat room and end the stream and say thank you for watching. Ta-ta! Do you want me to do that? Or do you not care? because, and afterwards, hold on, let's see. Sidney, I'd like to send you a Christmas cake. You might see God after you taste this cake, and afterwards you can sell it on eBay claiming so. No, I can, if I see God after I taste this Christmas cake, I wouldn't sell the rest of the cake. No, 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 no. I will sell small pieces of the cake. If I, Sidney Winston, the strongest atheist on this planet today, alive, were to taste a Christmas cake and see God, then that Christmas cake will be disseminated to as many people in pieces as I possibly can. I do not say this in jest, I say this in all seriousness. However, in all seriousness, I also say that it would be impossible for me to see anything other than an imaginary God after I taste the said Christmas cake. Exactly. So there you go. Next. Can you imagine Sidney Winston having a Kalilula epiphany? It's just, talking about Kalilula, I was thinking about him, how when he was all young and smiley, pretending to be an atheist, he was actually a Christian, pretending to be an atheist and being all nice. So he was kind of the opposite of Christians today, where they're all, smarmy and aggressive and grumpy, and defensive. Every one of them super defensive. When the EA show was on and Kalilula was pretending to be an atheist, with a nice smile, but he really was a Christian or a deist of some sort, a theist of some sort, because I'd say he was a Christian pretending to be an atheist. Now that he's done his internal critique and has come up with the conclusion that the God of the Muslims is the one true God and all the others are false or imaginary, he is directly in contradiction of Rebuke and Reprove, who was in earlier, and he said to me that he came in to challenge me on all gods are imaginary, prove me wrong. He came in to prove me wrong. He said, I have come to prove you wrong on all gods are imaginary. And then he said, and then he followed up with this. He says, the God of the Bible exists. All the others are imaginary. So I agree with you on that. But not all gods are imaginary, he said. My Christian God is not imaginary because I have the Bible to prove it. And when I try to take that conversation to another level, in other words, question his conclusion, his logic, his response, that's when he started to filibuster me, and like he just wanted to make that silly point and then run away. So he did, but first he had to, he had to laugh at me and insult me and degrade me and try and humiliate me and dehumanize me, as Christians are wanted to do, as Christians do anyway. Oh, Tide and Rover, man, now you're talking. I hope you have a business plan set up. Let's get to work. Let's get those dollars rolling in. I like Christmas cake, miracle oil, prayer cloths, Christian television network. Oh, I just see a gold mine. I see cha-ching, cha-ching. Should we sell ourselves out to the devil? Huh? Should we sell our souls to the devil and go and pretend. No, we don't have to pretend. Let's go and preach evangelical Christianity. I'm going to. I could, if you like, give a. I think it's a 1 hour a 1 hour tuition lecture. It won't be me giving it. It'll be Greg Bonson himself giving it on how to debunk atheism. Would you like to hear how to debunk atheism from from the perspective of someone who's teaching other Christian evangelists how to go out and evangelize? Well, Greg Bonson has this video out where it's actually just an audio where he goes where he talks about debunking atheism. It's very Darth Dawkins. A lot of Darth Dawkins phrases in there. He gets Darth Dawkins gets a lot of his phrasing from Greg Bonson. All right, you don't have to listen to it, you don't have to request it, you don't have to respond, but I will say this, that I have a project in mind. It's a concept right now. Here's a question. A project that's in mind, let's say for a video, okay? I have it in my mind, so it's conceptual, right? It doesn't really exist in reality. Okay, I guess once I put it on a disc and give it to somebody, it'll exist in that way. But even then, maybe not. Maybe this concept will never exist in reality, even though I can convey it and share it visually and orally. Okay, so here's the concept. I'm going to conceive of making a particular video. So I open up video software and I make the video, and it's all digital. It's all saved digitally, right? In zeros and ones, as it were. And then I render the video and share the video. Okay, so I haven't made anything tangibly concrete. Nothing. I've just made this video from conception to digital, essentially. So my question is, at what point did the video begin to exist? In my mind, when I started creating it in the video software, or once I rendered the end product, or once somebody else saw it? When did that video begin to exist? All right, we've gone from 6 viewers to 4 viewers, which tells me something. Tells me that we have been streaming for an hour, over an hour. No one has joined the room. So I am going to say thank you very much for watching. And yeah. We'll see you in the next one, all right? Thanks again. Ciao, ciao.